Leaving home at 9 in the morning, it took us 45 minutes to touch vicinity of Chukandi tombs, situated near Landi. As told by elders, Chukandi tombs could be easily seen while travelling on National Highway 30 years ago. But it seems those days were also become part of history, though not as old as Chukandi tombs itself, as we had to look not effortlessly to get sight of these tombs. Viciously covered by the overflowing population growth, these tombs are visible once you come very near to this historical cemetery. Passing through the locality of people whose homes are not better than the devastation being suffered by these 3-century-old tombs of the elite of their era. Finally, we have reached a bit faded signboard placed there by the local archaeological department mentioning the place as an archaeological heritage, and taking photographs and videography is strictly prohibited. We wondered that we have no option left but to offer Fatiha while standing by with these graves. But that soon settled with the help of a Sindh government officer, our family friend, who we took along to deal with such ridiculous issues. There we come to know that knowing the local language helps one out most often. Chukandi tombs lie 29 kilometers east of Karachi. There are around 110 tombs in an area of 2 square kilometers. Researching on the meaning of word Chukandi, we came to know that the scholars are much divided on this issue. Some believed that Chukandi is the name of a place. In fact, there is the tomb of Jam Murad Haji which mentions the word Chukandi along with the name of the deceased. Therefore, considered Chukandi to be the name of the place. Others went through the linguistic details to infer that Chaw in Sindhi language means four and Khandi corner or pillar. Chukandi thus refers to the 4 pillars supporting the umbrella-shaped dome over the tomb and would apply to all tombs having the same construction. However, this argument does not find support because all the tombs covered with the umbrella-shaped domes or with a rectangular pavilion at Chukandi have more than 4 pillars or columns. It is possible that while the word Chukandi originally referred to the style of construction, it has come to be associated with one particular site more than any other and has become localized. Another view is that Chukandi is used for a dammed roof, a kind of umbrella which is supported by 4 to 8 pillars, while the sides are left open. In the cultural tradition of Sindh, only that 4-walled enclosure is called a Chukandi, which is constructed out of respect around the grave of a revered person. Chukandi as such is not a grave or tomb in itself, but the 4-walled enclosure in which the reversed person has been buried. Referring to the burial place, it would be said a Chukandi as we say a maqbara or a qabr. There one can observe 2 kinds of graves, despiting the strong class of structure of those times. The graves of rich elites and the graves of poor and servants. While looking closely at the engraving and the work of art and craft done on the stones and their perfection and detailed carving, it seems quite obvious that the work was performed by the people who must have been employed for their lifetime to enrich the work. The work done so diligently that it may only be done by pure artists without any hurry or short-lived commercial benefit. Many graves are just covered with stones while the others are beautifully worked upon. They have carried their class of differences to the eternity. Chukandi tombs are famous for their unique style of construction. The architecture is dissimilar to Islamic architecture. The graves are made of sandstone and exist as either a single grave or in clusters. They are rectangular in shape and have unique patterns, motifs, crosses, geometrical designs on them. The area contains tomb of certain warriors of Baloch families settled in this area, sometime during the 17th and 18th centuries AD. Owing to the scarcity of dated inscription of Chukandi tombs, it is difficult to assign exact dates to them. Tombs are built on raised platforms with decorative stone steps covered with human and figurative designs. Most of the tombs represent family graveyards and only a few are placed under pillar canopies. The carvings on some of the male graves shows a horseman with his arms, shield, sword, bow and arrow. The carvings on women's graves represent ornaments such as bracelets, necklaces, rings, anklets, etc. Also, in case of male graves, a boss-shaped projection provided at the northern ends intends to hold the turban of the deceased. These graves are constructed in buff sandstones. Their carved decoration presents exquisite craftsmanship. These graves are constructed either as single graves or as group of up to 8 graves raised on a common platform. Their primary sarcophagus has 6 vertical slabs, with 2 long slabs standing on each side of the grave covering the length of the body and the remaining 2 vertical slabs covering the head and foot side. These 6 slabs are covered by a second sarcophagus consisting of 6 or more vertical slabs similar but in size, giving the grave a pyramid shape. This upper second sarcophagus is further covered with 4 or 5 horizontal slabs, and the topmost third sarcophagus is set vertically with its northern end carved into a knob known as a crown or a turban. These tombs are embellished, besides with geometrical designs and motifs, with figural representations such as mounted horsemen, hunting scenes, arms, jewelers, etc. Leaving Chukandi at 1 p.m., we have travelled for 70 minutes to reach Makli city, situated 2 kilometers before Thatta. The Makli hill near Thatta is the world's largest graveyard, spread over 15.5 square kilometers. Here lie kings, queens, scholars, philosophers and soldiers of a bygone era, renowned for its culture and learning. Significance of Makli cannot be understood without having a brief background of the significance of Thatta. Thatta is situated 60 miles east of Karachi on the National Highway, just west of the Indus River and the Arabian Sea coast. At one time, Thatta was important for being Sindh's capital city and as a center of Islamic arts. From the 14th century, 4 Muslim dynasties ruled Sindh from Thatta, but in 1739, the capital was moved elsewhere and with it, Thatta declined. And so the Makli. The history of Thatta goes back some 2000 years. We can see the masterpieces of stone carvings over the gravestones and mausoleums. These gravestones and mausoleum stones represent the different eras and dynasties. There are monuments of 14th and 16th centuries Summa period, the 16th century Tarkhan and Argun period, and the 16th and 18th centuries Mughal period. You can examine the minute and the delicate workmanship on the tombs of famous Mughal governors. The largest and the most impressive tomb among the tomb is the tomb of Isa Khan Tarkhan, who died in 1644. Most preserved monuments are the tomb of Mirza Tughral Beg and Diwan Shurfa Khan. Many myths and legends regarding the presence of spirits were in circulation. At another place, our guide asked us to move out of a tomb as there he felt the presence of some ruh. The Makli hill is situated on a raised ground, so it is also known as Makli Hill. According to some locals, Makli is associated with the meaning of Little Mecca, and many others link the name with the Piyush lady Mai Makli, who prayed for Sultan Firoz Shah Tughlaq to conquer Thatta. She is also buried in Makli. My Makli's grave is simple without carving or headstones and covered with a green cloth.
یہ مائی مکلی کی جو ہے یہ بہت پرانی ہم بچپن سے دیکھتے ہوئے آ رہے ہیں. مائی مکلی جو ہے یہاں سے ٹھٹا سے مکلی سے یہاں سے جاتی تھی مدینہ پاک میں. وہاں پہ جا کے اور دودھ بیچتی تھی رات کو, صبح کو وہ لسی بیچتی تھی. اور وہاں پہ جو بھی لوگ جاتے تھے قافلوں میں حج کرنے کے لیے, وہاں اگر بھول جاتے تھے, وہ رہ جاتے تھے اپنے قافلوں سے, تو ان کو اپنے اپنے گھر پہ پہنچاتی تھی. تو مدینہ پاک کے لوگوں نے ان کے اوپر نام رکھا تھا مائی مکلی, مکلی سے آنے والی مائی. اور پھر کیا ہوا کہ ایک دفعہ اس کا اپنا شوہر جو ہے وہ گیا یہاں سے حج کرنے کے لیے. وہاں سے وہ اپنے قافلے سے جو ہے وہ رہ گیا, قافلہ نکل گیا. تو اس کو جو ہے آخر میں کسی آدمی نے بتایا کہ بھئی ایک عورت آئے گی, وہ آپ کو پہنچائے گی وہاں پہ جہاں سے بھی آپ آئے ہو. شام کو آئے گی دودھ دینے کے لیے. وہ انتظار میں بیٹھا رہا اور مائی مکلی آئی, جیسے اس کا کام تھا روزانہ آتی تھی. تو شام کو جب آئی تو وہ ملا اس سے, بولا کہ میں رہ گیا ہوں قافلے سے. اس نے بولا ٹھیک ہے میں تمہیں پہنچا دوں گی. وہ پہچان گئی یہ میرا شوہر ہے, لیکن وہ نہیں پہچان سکا کہ یہ کون ہے. تو اس کو بولا کہ اگر میں تمہیں پہنچاؤں گی تو کوئی مجھ سے ڈیمانڈ نہیں کرو گے اور کوئی چیز نہیں مانگو گے مجھ سے, میں پہنچا دیتی. بولا نہیں کروں گا. تو اس نے اس کو کہا کہ آنکھیں بند کرو اور انگلی میری انگلی کے اوپر رکھو. تو اس نے جب آنکھیں بند کی اور انگلی کے اوپر رکھی, اس کے ایک سیکنڈ کے بعد اس نے کہا آنکھیں کھولو, تو وہ یہیں پہ مکلی میں کھڑے تھے دونوں. تو وہ حیران رہ گیا کہ میں ایک سیکنڈ میں کیسے آ گیا یہاں. تو اس نے کہا کہ مجھے اپنا جو ہے منہ دکھاؤ, رخ مبارک میں دیکھوں آپ کو. تو مائی نے کہا کہ نہیں, میں نے کہا تھا نا کہ مجھ سے اور ڈیمانڈ نہیں کرو گے آپ. بولا نہیں, آپ کو اللہ کی ذات کا واسطہ ہے, مجھے آپ اپنا جو ہے چہرہ دکھاؤ. تو اس نے کہا میں چہرہ تمہیں دکھاتی ہوں, ایسی ذات کا واسطہ دیا ہے, لیکن یہ ہے کہ پھر پچھتاؤ گے بہت, میں دکھاتی ہوں تمہیں چہرہ. تو اس نے کہا آپ اپنا چہرہ دکھاؤ. تو اس نے جیسے ہی رخ سے وہ پردہ ہٹا تو پتہ چل گیا کہ وہ مائی مکلی ہے, وہ اس کی بیوی تھی. تو اس کی روح پرواز ہو گئی اور پھر وہ اس دنیا سے چلی گئی. تو اس کے بعد سے بچپن سے ہم دیکھ رہے ہیں یہ دیوار ایسے ٹیڑھی ہوئی ہے, اور آج تک ہم نے دیکھا اتنے زلزلے آئے, بارشیں ہوئی ہیں, پانی ہوا ہے, لیکن یہ اب تک جو ہے نا اسی جگہ پہ کھڑی ہے, اس جگہ سے ہلی نہیں. اس کے نیچے مائی کی مزار ہے.
Makli's history goes well beyond the Mughal and even the Muslim era. There was a pre-Islamic period stupa that collapsed at Makli in 2007. The structure was a unique formation of yellow carved stones with various portraits of people. It was mounted along the foundation ruins of a Shiv Mandir at the Makli. The stupa had been named after a religious community, Menkila or Mingla. It is said that the name of Makli Hills was a refined adaptation of name Menkila. Makli again is a telltale of ruling class heritage. Architecture and artwork is pure Mughal. We have also found a broken off piece of wall depicting the actual and original specimen of art blue and white artwork painted on the walls.